we're going against this bill called HB7. This bill allows for transgender and abortion procedures to be facilitated in schools. So they slowball our constitutional ability to referendum these bills and put them on the ballot. And by the time it gets into the courts, it's like all we can do is ask for help.
Kids are actually going through this process, and you said that there were penalties.
Yes, there's a $5,000 fine for teachers or healthcare workers who tell the parents. So
What on earth? We have another amazing individual coming in. The director of a movie called Save Our Children, right here, is now joining us. Ben.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
We're live. It's great to have you here. I'm excited to talk to you. So can you tell us, you're the director, and the name of the movie is called Save Our Children. And on this photo here, we've got James Lindsay and a couple of other people. Can you tell us what you're working on?
Yeah, so pretty much what we show is how there's multiple layers to the transgender and abortion ideologies being forced in schools without parental knowledge or consent. And I asked the sheriff one time, like these bills that are passed that allow for this to happen, what can we do to these legislators to actually defend ourselves? And he said it takes somebody getting damaged or harmed from these bills that pass. And so we've been dealing with this for a while. We had a ballot initiative first against HB7, which is Reproductive and Gender Affirming Healthcare Freedom Act.
And where was this taking place?
New Mexico.
New Mexico.
New
So
Mexico.
Are you based there?
We're based out of there. We show it's not just New Mexico, though. And so this ballot initiative, we're going against this bill called HB7. And this bill allows for transgender and abortion procedures to be facilitated in schools. And if a teacher or a healthcare worker says anything about it to the parent, they are fined $5,000.
So just to unpack that, because that is a hell of a statement. I had not heard about this. This is a bill that was passed in New Mexico.
Yes, it's state statute now.
It is the law now.
Yes.
And it allows teachers to facilitate, you said, abortions and transitions.
Yes. So they pretty much put school-based health centers.
Okay.
That was another bill that was kind of in alignment with this bill when it was submitted. School-based health centers, they say it's not on campus, but it's like as if it's right next door and they can walk the children over there. And then they can recommend the children go see UNM for any kind of surgeries or hormones. And the people that we have Sarah and Casey and Mike. They're a couple that go undercover like James O'Keefe.
Yeah.
And they called multiple schools, and they did confirm that they would give across the hormones and the surgeries without parental knowledge. And what they do is they kind of act as if they're concerned for their child who's being secluded and wants these surgeries. So they kind of make it an act so they get the truth. But there's multiple schools that have confirmed that, even in conservative counties.
How old are these kids?
There's no age limit on this bill. That's the dangerous and scary part about New Mexico is there's no age limit. They removed the age limit. I sat in the committee and they asked, like, what if a 8-year-old girl or, somebody underage, obviously of consent, wants to get these surgeries? And they just, they beat around the bush and they say, no, we're not doing that. But it passed and we have to deal with it now.
Wow. Okay. So that is interesting. And how did this pass in New Mexico? This is a bipartisan, or the Democrats are just in control of all the houses?
Yeah, it was a party line vote. We sat in the committee when it was first heard, and I did have some Republican legislators that did speak against it. But whenever it came time to actually vote for it to pass committee, just a party line vote. And that's the way it's been. And not only that, there's an organization called Emerge. They're responsible for getting a lot of these candidates elected. But not only that, they have judges. So once it gets into the courts and we're fighting it in the courts, then we're fighting with Emerge judges that already align with these ideologies. So they slowball our constitutional ability to referendum these bills and put them on the ballot. And by the time it gets into the courts, it's like all we could do is ask for help.
In other words, you sued to stop the bill from coming in?
No, we had a ballot initiative, and that was to get it on the 2024 ballot. And so because we were slowballed by the Secretary of State, because we were slowballed by the judges and the court system, we had a court date immediately after the 2024 election, 1 week after. That's how long they held, like here in our case. And so they slowballed our efforts. And what we did is we submitted this in multiple courts throughout New Mexico because we knew they weren't going to try to recuse themselves.
Yeah.
And so to keep them all from being able to recuse themselves, we submitted in multiple courts throughout the state of New Mexico.
Okay.
And sure enough, they just slowballed it. They didn't hear us.
What you're submitting, it's a lawsuit or it's a bill?
I forget what it's called. Larry Marker is the one who dealt with the legal side of things.
An injunction or something to stop the bill from going into effect.
Like
yeah. Okay, so that's what's happening, and they're slow rolling those injunctions, and the law is still in effect, and they're actively funding this, and this is actively happening.
It's state funded. So, I mean, one thing I've always told people is that these ideologies are a cult religion, and if it's getting state funding and federal funding, it's really a state-endorsed religion, which we declared independence from.
Yeah, we did do that. And it sounds like, I mean, kids are actually going through this process. And you said that there were penalties for the parents.
Yes, there's a $5,000 fine, not the parents. There's a $5,000 fine for teachers or healthcare workers who tell the parents.
What on earth?
So you're fined to keep your mouth shut, pretty much. And not only that, there's another bill that they passed, which if you send an email that goes against these laws, you could be fined $10,000. And that's our referendum initiative. Like when we email and we send responses to our legislators, we send about 1 million responses. That's about 1 million different times we're breaking the law now.
Man, you're blowing my mind right now, because it sounds like they're stealing the kids from the parents and telling the teachers that you have to do that or else you're being penalized.
Yes, like in one of our trailers, we talk about the scary part is the family courts. So the family court panel, I believe, is a 4-panel judge system, and 3 of those judges are Emerge candidates, Emerge alumni.
And Emerge is?
Emerge is an organization that's anti-white male. They are pro-women getting elected, not men getting elected, and even trans women getting elected.
So the judges on the family of panels are from that entity.
Correct. And they actually win like a 70% rate.
My goodness, man. I got so many thoughts about this, but are parents opposing this? Is there, outspoken groups of parents assembling to try to push back against this?
Yeah, so during the referendum effort, we got people on both sides of the ballot signing this petition.
Yeah.
Like everybody's against it that we've seen. But when you have that ballot initiative happening and then you have the Secretary of State using her own political platform on social media to say that we did not approve this referendum. So here's the thing. She's fought the referendum process for years.
Yeah.
I think she even bragged about it, like she killed 10 or more referendum ballot initiatives.
The governor, or who is this?
The Secretary of State.
Secretary of State, yeah.
Yeah. And so she killed our previous efforts. And so what we did is we got an approved form of how the petition needed to be structured. And then by the time we got that approved form, then we structured our bill to match that. And she had some complaints about commas here and there, whatever. We did get an approved letter, like that's the right form of the petition. And so we went ahead and got signatures without her permission, because technically it's our constitutional right.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, we got signatures from both sides of the ballot. When people hear about it, then yes, we get instant volunteers, but we deal with censorship. And then in New Mexico, media's never been on our side since the lockdowns.
Yeah, New Mexico is interesting. I mean, I remember we covered a little bit about Governor Lujan, I think is her name, right?
Yep.
When she came out and issued that executive order that stripped everybody of their guns.
Yes, sir.
What the heck is going on? And she even hardly explained herself. I mean, she went on the cable news shows and more, and people are like, it's the Second Amendment, lady. And she was really struggling to wrap her head around how it works.
Yeah, so even that case right there, that case, the judge ruled in her favor because there's precedent when the natives and the slaves couldn't have guns. That was his ruling.
Okay. This is America. This is America.
But the thing is, that's as racist as you could get.
It is. I remember reading that. You're right. I do remember reading that. And what happened to that? Did she withdraw that order?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
New Mexico Shooting Sports Association is the ones that
are fighting that.
Yeah, we've helped them on the back end, but yeah, we're in Marxist country there.
Man, yeah, New Mexico has been interesting. And so you're based out of there, and tell us more about the film. So You guys, how long have you been working on this? Is it out yet?
It's not out yet. So March 1st is the goal. Actually, now it has to happen. But also Salem actually reached out. They came directly to our booth and want to help launch it. So
that's amazing. Congratulations. You guys have a beautiful booth over here. And
appreciate it.
And so March 3rd?
March 1st.
March 1st, it'll be coming out. And can you give us a little, trailer? What are people going to be seeing?
Yeah, so we actually have 7 trailers. So we don't have like an official one that includes all cast members. What I did is I'm the editor as well.
Okay. So you're the director, producer, and editor. You do the editing too.
Yeah, I don't do the graphics. That's Brian.
Man, he's a talented man.
Oh, I had to, man. I would hire people, but then they would show up. So
yeah.
And I'm a business owner, so I know how to get it done.
I know. I have editors too, and it's like, it's a lot. So that's amazing. Okay, so people are going to see when they watch the film, they're going to learn about what the schools are actually doing. You got people behind the scenes who are going in and exposing it.
Yeah, so we actually have actual recorded undercover footage, and that shows multiple people like counselors, principals, superintendents forcing CRT using guerrilla warfare tactics. That's some of their words.
Yeah.
And so we expose that level. We show why New Mexico is ranked last in education.
Yeah.
And they keep throwing more money when they have less and less students. And we start there because that's easy for parents to kind of grasp.
Right.
But then we go on to the transgender gender issues and the pronouns, and we show that it's multi-layered and just in New Mexico, and then we start to show that it's systemic throughout the nation. And so we interviewed a lot of people that are very knowledgeable, have done the research. And one crazy thing, I don't know if you're Christian, but like Christians, Easter is almost like the Super Bowl of holidays.
Yeah, he's back, baby.
Well, they have their own Easter. They say you need to die to self and be raised with the disenfranchised. So there's a whole religion side of queer theory that is embedded in our curriculum. The counselors, there's policy that makes them trained to be queer theories. Even the lady in charge of the library books, like at the top, she was the former chair, but now she's not, but she was a queer Marxist. She called herself a queer Marxist.
Yep.
And they said the best way to get into the schools is to use the library as the vehicle to get this into the schools.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I hear a lot about it happening, and I hear about the book bans, right, and the fights. I don't have kids yet, but I'm sure when I do, I'll be much more invested in these issues, but I feel almost foolish for not knowing what New Mexico is doing about, like, they're taking the kids, which is why the documentary is appropriately named Save Our Children.
Yeah, some people don't know New Mexico's a state.
Yeah.
In the 50 states. So,
Yeah.
Biden called us Mexico, so.
Yeah. Well, Biden doesn't know much of anything. So, yeah, so it's hard to use him as a measure. So, okay, March, how can people support you? I mean, this is a critically important issue, obviously. When the government is coming and telling the children that they can give them surgeries and not let the parents know, feels like evil to me, feeling the kids away from the parents. These are vulnerable people. To make the school administrators really the parents, it's sick. So how do we fix this?
One way is educating the masses. So because we've all probably in this facility have dealt with censorship, we've made uncancelable platforms.
Yes.
And so the way I approach it is very old school, door knocking. Like, we're going to put a campaign strategy behind this. Everything a campaign has as far as a candidate, we want that to be what the documentary is. And then we're going to go on to other ways, because there's multiple ways our children are being affected, whether it's trafficking at the border. It's just endless, really.
Yeah.
And it's dark, but we have to tell the dark truth.
It is dark, and we hear about the border. We covered the story where there was 300,000 youth who were missing. Some people say that number's up to 500,000 just from the trafficking across the border. But the idea that we're doing it through our own legislation and allowing school teachers to traffic these kids in these different ideologies is a big problem. And I'm really glad you're talking about it.
Forced policy without our consent. That's a similar tactic for every industry. You have people who are not knowledgeable in the industries, but they make the policy and pretty much force good people out of compliance.
Yeah.
Against their laws.
Well, my friend, I appreciate you doing the work that you're doing. Where can people connect with you to watch the film when it comes out? You've got other films.
We have other documentaries as far as like Ranching Uncanceled.
Yeah.
But you could go to SaveOurChildren.com, and instead of an I, we used a number 1 because the domain was $20,000. So we had to be creative, keep it short. Save Our Children, and in children, the I is a number 1.
Is a number 1. It looks like this, if that will render. See. There we go. All right, so that's how it looks. Yeah, SaveOurChildren.com. All right, so check that out, my friend. I really am grateful for your time. Thank you for working on this issue and educating me about it. And I hope that you're very successful in educating many more. And I'd like to see enough energy to shift New Mexico red. I don't know if that's ever going to happen.
As people find this out, they find out their party passed these laws and they can't align themselves.
I have to imagine even Democrats, right, if they hear this and they start thinking about their kids being taken from them to go get an abortion or to go change their gender, they've got to be disgusted. So the more we can talk about this, the more you guys can watch this film and share the film and reboost it, give it a boost. So the more people can see it, that's how we'll get things changed.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much, man. Really appreciate you. Thanks for coming by.
God bless.
All right, God bless. We've got my friend Save Our Children in the house.